Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you all joining us today. We're going to wait one more minute just to let a few more people join in, and we'll get started. All righty, everyone, welcome and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today, where we are going to be showcasing how Acumatica meets AI and how ConverSight supercharges business intelligence. Thank you, James. This presentation should take about 45 to 60 minutes. All phone lines are muted and will be recorded to avoid background noise. If anyone has any questions during this presentation, please refer to the panel and type them in our questions box, and we'll answer them during our Q&A session at the tail end of this presentation or throughout. Next slide, please. Thank you. Myself, I'm Julius Holly. I'm an account manager here with Net at Work with our Acumatica practice. I'm more involved with more of our accounts that are post go live, but although I am involved with some going through implementation. Today we have James Wise with us, who's a mid-market account executive in partnerships with ConverSight, as well as Drew Gunn, who is ERP development manager with Midway Industrial Supply. One of the key advantages of working with Net at Work is our ability to support not just a single solution, but a full range of top-tier systems for every aspect of your business. We also maintain strong partnerships with leading third-party solutions, carefully selected based on product strength and customer satisfaction. With this broad portfolio, we make it seamless for you to transition from outdated legacy systems that may be limiting your growth to modern solutions that fully align with your evolving business needs. And from here, I'm going to hand it off to James.
Amazing. Appreciate that, Julia. So everyone should see my screen. Just we see ConverSight Advanced Analytics and Decision Intelligence with the power of generative AI. That is simply a fancy way of saying that we not only are able to connect to Acumatica, but several other sources that you may have that will give you the full picture of your data, whether that's Excel, flat file, Shopify, whatever it may be. We'll connect directly to each of them, create a single source of truth of your data, and provide a few different pillars of insights. The first of which is going to be our on-demand reporting. One instance of this is our AI assistant, Athena. So what we've seen frequently is that with any ERP, not even just Acumatica specifically, they're purpose built to gather quite a bit of information, but then when it comes time to report to executives or report to the sales team on demand, there's a lag in between those users asking questions and getting answers. So we want to shave that down drastically by providing an AI assistant where you can ask natural language questions and get answers at the pace of the business, as opposed to having that lag, which your answers could potentially be stale by the time you get them. The other version of that on-demand reporting would be our Explorer Report Builder. This is geared towards someone it's also business user friendly, but a little bit more geared towards someone who's familiar with the data, who wants to pull specific fields from your Acumatica tables and create visualizations or reports from them. The second pillar of insights that we're providing are storyboards. That is our version, what we coin as our version of dashboards. So as opposed to having to constantly write GIs as technical resources are fielding requests, which we've heard from a lot of our Acumatica users. You're able to log in. You have a dashboard that has repeatable metrics that are most relevant to you. We can even set up thresholds so you have alerts based on when those metrics are either trending up or trending down. The last component that we'll walk through today will be our decision intelligence insights. This is where we really start to separate ourselves from the pack, not only from business intelligence tools, but also from inventory optimization tools as well. So what we're doing is we're taking into account your demand forecast, your inventory position that you have, any open purchase orders that you might have out there, dynamic lead times as well. And what we're able to do is provide recommendations. So today I'll walk through our inventory optimization flow. So that would be our recommended purchase order to make sure that we're maintaining a safety stock as opposed to you going into an excess or a shortage position. We can also apply that to recommended work orders on the manufacturing side of things, in addition to AI generated demand forecasts if you don't necessarily have the confidence in your forecast today. I'll hop in to the platform to give you a sneak peek. Once I'm done with the demo on my side, I'll actually pass it over to Drew Gunn, who's our representative over at Midway Corp, one of our clients, who's going to give you some very specific examples of how we're helping their company. And just to confirm, Julius, you guys are able to see the ConverSight platform screen here?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Perfect. So the first page that you'll see when you log into ConverSight is going to be our insights page. So this is really a news feed like view of any anomalies or trends that are happening within the business. Your extremely customizable alerts based on the user. We'll actually leverage data governance to make sure that this is segmented out by persona or business unit. So for example, a revenue leader might want to see this view where it's saying, the following are 5 products whose revenue are trending down this year versus last year, right? Whereas if a sales rep is logging in, you might only want them to see certain customers that are down 10% for the current month. It'll only reflect their book of business. We really lock this down based off of your preferences. The Explorer, which I mentioned, is going to be that instantaneous report builder, right? So if you are familiar with the data, you're able to choose a data set. For example purposes today, I'll be walking through our recommended purchase order a couple of times. So I may want to grab our part number. I want to understand our quantity on hand. And then as far as a date range, I want to know the last 30 days volume. And I'd also like to load the last 31 to 60 days volume in comparison. I'll run that report. And then as I mentioned, instant access to your data in order for your users to drive, decisions for your users, right? This is going to be the visualization that Athena recommends based off of the data that I pulled, but maybe I find it a little bit easier to view this in a CS table, a pivot table, or any of the other library of visualizations that you have access to within ConverSight. Very flexible based off of that user, as I mentioned. Then giving you the ability to share to other members of the team simply by entering their email. We can pin this to a storyboard, which is going to be our version of the dashboards, as I mentioned. I'll just say webinar, create an ad, or the ability to export this to a PDF or an Excel file, again, depending on your comfortability. The next flavor of insights that kind of coincides with this will be this icon that you see here. It's our AI assistant, Athena. You're going to see her throughout the product, regardless of where you are in ConverSight, to give your users the ability to ask questions as they arise. All right, and more importantly, ask those questions in a natural language format. So, for example, maybe I want to know the month-over-month sales growth for the last 12 months. Athena's going to spit that answer back to me again immediately, and then give me the ability to explore that data further, mix and match it as needed, and present that in a fashion that I deem appropriate. I want to pin this to a storyboard as well, just to give you guys an example. As we follow through, it's going to recognize that the webinar storyboard was the most recent that I created. A couple other questions here. Maybe from an inventory perspective, someone in purchasing may want to know what products have shortages for next month. Again, receiving that answer at the pace in which I need the answer, and giving me the ability to view it as I see fit. We'll add this to the storyboard one last time. So again, where we're really essentially providing that value is what we've seen across Acumatica users is for sales reporting specifically. There's been a level of frustration of getting those answers immediately. I know for the folks over at Midway Corp that are speaking for us today as a client, their head of IT was spending about 10 to 12 hours a week fielding requests from their sales team that were very simple metrics such as month-to-date sales or revenue targets in relation to the previous month, where he was taking time out of his day as opposed to just giving them the ability to ask those questions or giving them a storyboard that they can log into on a regular basis to view those metrics. And again, this is a storyboard that I just created. You'll then have access to that moving forward, and the data will automatically refresh because we have that direct connection to Acumatica. Now, in the spirit of inventory optimization, we have a kind of a flow built out into our product geared specifically towards this. This is probably one of the most common use cases that we run into. There's a multitude of different views of those storyboards, such as capacity planning, part shortage, etc. But the ultimate goal is to provide you insights that drive informed decisions, right? Where we typically get the deepest into that is the inventory optimization and the recommended purchase orders. And when it comes to that recommended inventory optimization flow, determining what we need to order, it really starts with the sales forecast, right? So we can either ingest your existing forecast if it can be trusted, as I mentioned earlier, or we can create an AI generated forecast that you see, which is what most of our customers opt into doing. Here we're looking at your historical sales, accounting for any seasonality trends, outlying orders, and there's several different algorithms running at once to give you kind of that high, mid, and low forecasts. Lastly, these are going to be auto-calibrating to ensure that the forecast changes as the demand for your customers is changing. And really the main differentiator from some of the other forecasting tools out there is that this is dynamic, right? This is not and Drew and his team can attest to this at Midway Corp, this is not a manual entry of data that then feeds you a static forecast, because we're pulling that data on a consistent basis from Acumatica. This is going to refresh automatically and will be a dynamic forecast and change accordingly. The inventory summary is going to be the next, really the next piece of that visibility is is getting that visibility into your inventory, right? Really having a good understanding of our current inventory positions. So what we have on hand, what are our current purchase orders, specifically what excess stock do we have on hand, what do we have on order, and what do we have in transit. So not only what we have at the location, but what's inbound and what's outbound as well. Again, a lot of Acumatica users that we've spoken to, they were doing these inventory counts and updating their inventory counts manually in Excel. This is where we plug directly into the system. And as those transactions are happening, we can track them in real time and provide visibility into that true inventory position. Lastly, is going to be the recommended purchase order. So what we really built that crumb trail up to is to provide you that recommended purchase order, again, to drive informed decisions. So this is really where that decision intelligence that I mentioned starts to separate us from the pack. As we're accounting for sales trends, feeding those trends into our sales forecast, as we have that holistic visibility into your inventory position, not just what's in the building, but both inbound and outbound, we can start recommending purchase orders based on all of those factors. And then finally, we account for dynamic lead times as well. When it comes to dynamically changing lead times, they help us ensure that just-in-time delivery of product, because we want to order to actual vendor lead times as opposed to promised vendor lead times. We actually have they're not in the Acumatica space, but a pump manufacturer that we work with had a supplier that would constantly was guaranteeing an SLA of 21 days lead time. However, once we actually connected to their data, we noticed a trend of roughly 28-day lead time, which is drastically going to throw off your purchasing journey as a result. So we want to use those calculated lead times as opposed to those promised lead times. And then to round this out, the supply planner here is going to essentially be that recommended purchase order that I just showed you all, but with constraints, right? So maybe we have a particular budget. There's a certain amount of months that we want to have safety stock. We'll again show you what's on hand. We'll do an ABC or ABC analysis of your clients. So that way you can really have that prioritization in place. And then lastly, what we're working towards, what we already have in place for several other ERPs, and what we're working towards for Acumatica in the near future is the ability to then say yes to create this purchase order right here within ConverSight, and then we'll write that back to your into Acumatica. That is it. That really sums up each of the areas that we're looking to focus on today. I do want to mention that we're not only geared towards inventory optimization, but we can also apply this to production planning. We can apply this to capacity planning. We've essentially applied this to several areas all across the supply chain, not just within inventory. Drew, I will give you presenting authority right now.
All right. Thank you, James. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody. My name is Drew Gunn. I'm the ERP Development Manager at Midway Industrial Supply. Just a quick little bit about me. I joined Midway in 2015 as an inside salesperson. And within 2 years, was named the branch manager in Rochester, New York. And up until about 2 years ago, that's what I was doing when I had learned so much about Acumatica and how to use it day in and day out that they actually created this position for me so that I could not only help make our Acumatica a little bit more efficient, a little leaner, but also take charge and train our new hires and get everybody up on the system as quick as possible, because anybody who's on Acumatica now, the training process for Midway was about a year, and if you're not part of that, you miss out quite a bit. And Midway really didn't have anybody particularly experienced with Acumatica to do that on a regular basis, and that was where I kind of stepped in. And a little bit about what brought us to ConverSight was, we our IT network manager Patrick and I, it was my first time going to the summit in 2024 back in January. I was about a year into the role and really was kind of getting to a point where I was ready to start doing bigger and better things. So we made a plan to get out to the summit, and my big thing that I wanted to bring back was a warehouse management system. The nature of Midway's business, we have multiple branches and locations throughout New York and Pennsylvania, and with that comes the inventory logistic issues of we may be selling this item over in this territory and not here in this other territory at all, and we had really no way of, Acumatica doesn't really tell you where inventory should go, where it needs to be, where it would be most effective, and that was something we really wanted to get addressed this year. And it was actually a chance meeting, sitting down to have some lunch one of the days, just resting our feet and everything for the mile walk from the hotel rooms to the convention center. James and his team sat next to me, and we were just chatting with everybody, just where are you from, what would your company do? And James's team, their name tag said Future ISV, so they actually weren't even set up yet. And I, being new myself, was kind of drawn to that, and turned out James and I bonded over some regional delicacies out here in Rochester, New York, that he knows very well. And we swapped cards and kept running into each other a few times throughout the summit, and we ended up becoming friends afterwards, which was great. But in the demo that followed our return from the summit, we were amazed by what ConverSight, their capabilities. We had looked into a few other competitors of ConverSight's while we were there at the summit, and while they were all great, there was a certain flexibility that we were looking for that the other companies didn't really have. It's part of Midway's nature to need to be flexible. We have multiple divisions across our different branches, from cutting tools and abrasives to industrial supplies, things like fuel hose, motors, bearings, belts, pretty much you name it, we sell it. We also do some work with the government as well, and we have a full production hose shop that makes hydraulic hoses, fuel lines, water lines, things like that. So we have a lot of different ways inventory moves in and out of our system. And we have a small team in our purchasing department that are also operations guys, and they unfortunately can't always keep their finger on inventory coming in and out, over purchasing, under purchasing. And other than Acumatica's replenishment system, we really didn't have anything helping us along the way. Dead inventory was a big deal for us. I know James will be covering that after I'm done talking, some of the ROI here, but ConverSight actually helped us shed light on even more dead inventory than we had known about, which was a big eye opener for us. And so that kind of really showed us where we were lacking internally, and what we've come from it is not only we've got better eyes on our inventory now, which is huge for us, and we're actually working on bigger and better things inventory wise now using this program. We can buy a little bit smarter. We were buying on demand. If customers said they needed it, we were getting it. If customers said, hey, we want to stock 10,000 of these, okay, no problem. We want to get the sale, we want to make the customer happy. And 6 months later, they're not buying them from us anymore, and we're stuck, with half of that. And we didn't really have anything telling us that. It was really more when we got eyes on it during physical inventory using Acumatica cycle count system. But that's not always a timely thing with the way business moves now, prices going up and down. It really was a sore spot for us. We also, Midway, a lot of our growth is through acquisition. Usually maybe 1 or 2 acquisitions a year is really our goal. And with that, we inherit quite a bit of inventory, and most of it's good, but we really have no idea what's good and what's not coming from an outside company. It's just, we bring it in, we count everything, and we hope it moves. with ConverSight, we can kind of, you know, set a time period, 6 months, 9 months, a year, where we can revisit that inventory that we've inherited and see what's actually moving, and then we can decide whether or not to, you know, get rid of some of it or try to, you know, load it off on, you know, eBay or something along those lines. And that's really helping us recoup some, not only of our cost for acquisition, but also, you know, helping us with new equipment that we need instead of needing to go out and talk to the bank or something along those lines. You know, we're just dipping into our dead inventory and trying to move as much as we can to get some of that back. And that's been very, very, very good for us. A little bit more about the flexibility too, and I get to shout out James's customer service team that I've been working with since all this started. They've been fantastic. I'll share a little bit of personal information here. This summer, my wife had a rare sarcoma that developed, and so we were middle of the project when it happened. And not only was James awesome and you know, checking in on me and everything, but his team was as flexible as humanly possible. With them being in California and me in New York, my schedule was changing day to day depending on our doctor visits and treatments and all that. You know, we were moving, you know, even day of, we were moving stuff a couple hours forward or to the next day. And you know, James's team, it was Serena, Samantha, and Bleslin, have been nothing short of awesome for us. And that flexibility really means something to Midway and myself personally, obviously. The way they were able to get things done with me being in and out was fantastic. And another, you know, thing, I want to give James a specific prop as well. Sometimes in this business, somebody makes the sale and then you never really talk to them again. They hand you off to their service team, and that's it. You don't really hear much of them. James has kept in contact with me the entire time, asking if there's anything they could do better, if there's anything that needs to be changed. And that was pretty refreshing in my experience from some of the other, you know, run-ins I've had over the years with different vendors and things. It's really, really helped us, you know, even trust ConverSight even further with our information. And that, you know, I wanted to make sure I tossed that in there for you, James. A little extra props, buddy. But that was, you know, and that kind of trust, you know, I believe I've said this to James before, is ConverSight's the kind of people we want to do business with. You know, we tend not to try and pick a company based on its, you know, notoriety or how big it is in the space. I want to work with the right people, and their team has definitely proven to be the right people. Not only personally, but also professionally. So that, you know, that's something to think about too, if you're, you know, looking to get involved with ConverSight, Net at Work, and Acumatica. It's been great all along from day one up until, you know, us prepping for this webinar. It's been fantastic. But a little bit more to that flexibility as we've been developing the system here. I just throw out ideas, and their team is able to kind of create it within a short period of time. I don't think I've had an idea get shot down, and I haven't had one take more than 2 or 3 days for them to put together something for me to look at and get into and look at the information. And for us, that's great. You know, James, you were talking earlier about the reporting, and that was a big sore for us. You know, with Acumatica, to create custom reports, you're typically writing GIs. I personally don't handle the GIs at all in my role, but our CFO and our IT manager are constantly writing them. And it's always one complaint I was getting from our outside sales team was, how do I know how well I'm doing? I can see my orders, but not what they're doing. And you know, we'd have to stop, you know, and take a few hours to write a GI, or, you know, even if it's quick, if our IT guy is out and is dealing with something, he's not gonna be able to get that report in a timely fashion. What kind of came up in the beginning of our quest here with ConverSight was, I was kind of chit-chatting with the guys about Acumatica's dashboards. They're very generic, great information. We use them, you know, we have them for our inside team, our executives, our management team. Everybody has dashboards, but some salespeople like to see information this way. Other salespeople like to see it this way. I don't care about my margin. I only want to see dollars. You know, it was a lot of specific requests, and Acumatica's dashboard system can't really do, if you make a change, it's for everybody. There's no customization per salesperson. ConverSight is going to be able to do that for us. And that's going to be a huge tool for our sales team. You know, I like to use the example of one of our salespeople is sitting in the car in the parking lot of their customer before a meeting. They can use their login and their specific dashboard that'll have their information only on it, and Athena to pull specific information to use in that meeting. So say, you know, let's see the sales trend or sales information for the last 3 months for such and such customer. You can get that information in a snap and then utilize that in the meeting to, you know, even just to congratulate the customer on you know, having great sales with us, take them out to lunch or something along those lines. We don't have anything like that now, and you know, we're still building it. It's in process. It's a lot of information. We have a lot of sales guys, and everybody wants something specific, so we're working on that. So I don't have that to show anybody today for the webinar, but that's in process. Really quick, if I can just share my screen, I would be happy to go. Bear with me for just a second, everybody. There we go. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
You're all good, Drew.
Okay, excellent. So I just 2 storyboards I wanted to draw some attention to that I thought everybody would really, you know, it kind of gives a good idea of what you can see. So these are the storyboards here that we've created so far. We have an inventory one that shows us our entire inventory and then also has some information about dead inventory. And that's all based on what we as a company would consider dead inventory. So for Midway, we're utilizing anything that hasn't been sold in 365 days, we're considering as dead inventory. And that would have been a GI we needed to write through Acumatica and then have that run, you know, frequently in order for us to stay on top of things. With ConverSight, their team was able to put that together in a weekend for me, you know, on a Friday, and then I had it on a Monday, and we were already hitting the ground running. But the one I've found a lot of fun use with is the sales order summary. We never really had an overall snapshot that was available for manipulation for us to see. It was just, you know, just straight data, Excel format, you know, as you'd see it in Acumatica. But with the different options that ConverSight was able to give us, you know, we can take a look at trending down customers. We're taking a look at our different item classes and where our revenue sits with it. You can see here cut tools, which is a generic term for us, but it's, you know, one of our largest revenues for that item class. And this is the kind of information we couldn't really get before. So having these kind of things, given our sales teams and our sales management an idea of what sections, what classes of our items are selling better, we can target that a lot faster and a lot easier and push those sales. We can also see here some of the bottom, you know, some of our worst moving inventory items, you know, ones that are eye openers. And then we have some of our top inventory IDs. You know, Midway has over 250,000 SKUs in Acumatica, which is a lot of part numbers to track. Not all of it is inventory. We drop ship a fair amount, but I think somewhere between 12 and 15,000 SKUs are inventoried items in our different branches in our warehouses. So having these kind of heads up on some of our worst or some of our best has been really useful for our purchasing team to avoid, you know, silly purchases or things that we don't need. And each of these little squares, these blocks here, you click on Explore, makes it larger for you, and you can actually, you know, scan through all of the information here and see specifics. This is great. You know, this is information you'd have to do a lot of digging for in Acumatica. And then the other one I really was excited about when they created it for me and excited to show everybody here is our product shortage. You know, like I mentioned earlier, our purchasing team is small. I actually handle the cutting tool purchasing for the company on my side of things, only because that was the side of the company I worked on the inside, and I happen to know the items. But we have 2 inventory guys now that are always pulled to do things for operations, or they're you know, moving things around in branches. You know, they wear multiple hats, and it's very hard to get focused, you know, purchasing done when you have a task list that's 8 pages long. We wanted this product shortage to give us an overhead of what we might be running out of soon. And we not always will purchase these things, but being able to see at this higher level what's going in, what might be coming is I mean, it's as good as gold, honestly. So here you can see this is our entire product short. So this is all of our inventory, any kind of shortages and balances that we're looking at. And then we had them take it down a little bit further so that we can sort it out by warehouse here. So if we're focusing on, inventory or purchasing for one warehouse at a time, all we have to do is just click the warehouse itself, and then all of the items that have any kind of forecast or anything will just drop right into here. So this right here will be all of our O2, and I can close that up, and I can come down here to branch 11 and check all of their information. So if you don't want to, sort through the entire inventory list, you can break it down here by our warehouses, and that's very important. Most of our warehouses have their own warehouse teams, so they're constantly running their cycle count, shipping, receiving, and everything. Cycle counts are great. The system Acumatica tells you what to count, but there's still that human error, that comes up when you've counted 50,000 little screws or nuts or something like that, and your eyes begin to cross. So having these kind of higher level reports really give us the tools to succeed. And the big thing, Acumatica and its kit items. Very difficult to deal with the kit system. We found ways around it, but one of the things we really couldn't do is keep track of all of the kit items themselves that we use, the components, and buying them in a smarter fashion. A lot of it comes from a handful of vendors, so we can kind of use this to maybe do some bulk purchases a little bit smarter. We can get some deeper discounts instead of like we had been, which is, we need this hose built in 2 weeks. So we got to order 20 of these and get them here now, but there's a 6-week lead time because we didn't know we needed them until right now. And that was a big issue for us. So we did the same thing we did with the overall shortage here. This is specific items that are utilized in our kit. So these are component items only. And then we took that the next step further and broke it down by warehouse, just like we did with all the other inventory. And this is actually a shorter list for the kit items because not all of our branches deal with doing kits and things, but this has really given us some very useful tools to help our purchasing guys do their jobs better without having to step away from their other responsibilities and spend days, sometimes weeks, getting everything in line. So that was all I had for what I wanted to show. James, I can make you the presenter again, correct?
Perfect. Greatly appreciate that, James.
Yeah. Okay. You should be all set there.
Perfect. So in summary, there we go. In summary for the Midway success plan, their current state was that, they are having a difficult time consuming and pulling reports based off the measures that they needed for their sales team, first off. So there's a lot of ad hoc requests from that team that was bogging down their IT leader, which was leading to a lack of visibility. So the first kind of ROI was time for him to get those 12 to 15 hours back that he was spending on the manual reporting process. Drew was tracking over 6,500 active SKUs with no central repository for trends or demand, and as a result, that excess inventory, which they thought was roughly $700,000, we were able to help identify that it was closer to $1.2 million annually. So assuming that we're able to, over the course of this next year, reduce that 500K excess inventory gap, the tool typically pays for itself, right? And then
absolutely,
the last piece here is that Now, we can apply this not only to demand forecasting, inventory optimization, but also for manufacturing analytics, capacity planning, financial analytics, sales analytics, like we mentioned with Drew. We're purpose built to be a tool that your team can grow into, as opposed to grow out of and have to go through a whole nother evaluation for a different inventory optimization tool because you already have business intelligence, or vice versa. We're looking to do everything that the Tableaus, Power BIs, Clicks, as well as the stock IQs and net stocks of the world all do separately. We're doing that all under one umbrella with ConverSight. I would love to thank everyone for attending and your time. As far as what's next, if you would like to schedule some time to chat with us, discuss your current situation, how we might be able to potentially fill some gaps like we've done with the team over at Midway Corp, please contact your Net at Work account manager, or you can feel free to contact me directly. The promotion that we've decided to run, since we do have a ton of momentum going with Net at Work and Acumatica clients, is for anyone who comes on board with us prior to the end of the year. We're offering 2 months free off of their 2 months free off of their annual contract for ConverSight. We're also given the flexibility to push off any billing to 2025, so you're leveraging 2025 budget as opposed to dipping into any end of year budget and trying to scramble and make those requests last minute. Julius, with that, I give it to you for the wrap up, sir.
All righty, I appreciate it, James, and thank you too, Drew. We have our questions open right now. As far as right now, James, the first question is, how do we contact you? Kaomi, I can actually forward you James's contact information right after this meeting, and then from there you can ask him any questions that you like. And then from here, I'll just leave the question air open for another 60 seconds or so, and then from there we'll end the webinar.
We must have did a decent job if there's no questions.
Yeah, I like that. That's rare for me, guys.
Okay, we have another question for you, James. Do you currently integrate with Workforce Go?
Workforce Go. Actually have one of our technical resources on the line, and we can check on that. Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure, but I can, depending on who asked that question, I can get them that answer offline.
It looks like, James, that they actually copied their email within the questions box as well.
I'm not seeing the questions box on my side, but
no problem at all. What I can do is forward you this information right now.
okay. Whoever that may be, I'll make sure to get you that answer offline. Off the top of my head, I don't 100%. I can't give 100% certainty, but they do have an open API, and in most cases, if there is an open API, we do have that end-to-end flexibility of connecting to data all the way to visualizing it. So there should not be an issue as long as they do allow that connectivity.
And then for everyone, for elaborating purposes, we have one of our customer success managers following up with everyone who has attended this webinar to follow up and address any questions and to connect you to James as well. Here. I'll leave the questions box open for another 30 seconds or so, if anyone else has any other questions. Alrighty, James, if you could just share the next slide.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, everyone, again, as James noted, if you'd like to get in contact with him or have a conversation with your designated account manager, please feel free to reach out to me and I can designate you to James or your assigned AM. If you have any questions about any other type of webinars or services, please also feel free to reach out to me as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.